Pep. Come on in, baby. Hi. Hello. Oh my goodness. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So today we're sitting down and we are doing a would I buy it again. I have seen this video idea floating around the YouTube here recently, and basically I went through my eyeshadow collection and I pulled some palettes to talk about, and I'm going to tell you, would I buy them again? If they disappeared, would I actually take the time and money to replenish them and buy them again? Before we get started, don't forget I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for you guys. If you like this video while you're watching it, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. It really does help my channel out. And other than that, if you are excited and you want to hear about what eyeshadow palettes I would buy again, there's not that many. Then let's go ahead and get started. If you are curious about this makeup look right here, it is going to be one of my days in an upcoming 1 week 1 palette with the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. That video will be up soon, so definitely keep an eye out for that. So I saw my friend Rachel Palmieri do this video on her channel a couple weeks back, and I thought it was such a fun idea. And she accredited Amy from the Dolly Mama as the one who made this video idea up. So then naturally, I went ahead and checked out the Dolly Mama and her channel, and she's got a lot of really fun video ideas. So she's gonna eventually end up talking about every single one of her palettes in her whole collection, whether she would rebuy them or not. I'm gonna take the approach that Rachel did, where I'm just gonna talk about a few. If this video does well and you guys seem to enjoy it, I can always do like a round 2, 3, 4. I got a lot of eyeshadow palettes. I'm definitely gonna have both the Dolly Mama and Rachel's channels linked down below for you guys to check out. So in Rachel's video, she said that she had her boyfriend just pick a random number between 1 and 10, and then she went down her collection by that number to pick what palettes she was going to talk about. I thought that was a fun idea. That's what I ended up doing here today, except Mike is at work. He had to go into the office. So I just went with a random number generator and went 1 through 10, and it chose 5. So then I just went through my collection and went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pick that palette. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pick that palette. And I've got quite a few to talk about, so I should probably like get started. So the first one being Soft Glam by Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is a really beautiful palette. It is a cult classic. It's been around forever. A lot of people really love this palette. It's a really beautiful, warm sort of color story. It's a typical ABH formulation where the mattes are super powdery, but they're pigmented and easy to blend. The shimmer shades are a little bit on the thicker side, so you do have to go in with a little amount. I would use glitter primer, do your eyes first, the typical ABH formulation. So I like this palette, I do. Every time I've reached for it in the past, I have ended up liking the looks that I make, but I would not repurchase this. I just honestly never reached for it. I ended up getting it in a set with the Modern Renaissance palette a couple years ago from Ulta, and I think since I bought it, I've used it maybe a handful of times. So while it's beautiful and good quality, I would not repurchase this. Next up, we have the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. So this came out towards the end of last year, and I snagged it during the Sephora sale back in November. This is a really beautiful color story. I love the pinks, the mauves, the cool tones. You do have some warm tones up here in case you do want to dabble into those, but you have a bunch of cool tones, which I personally prefer. And a bunch of these shimmers in here are absolutely stunning. A couple of them are a little bit more duds where they're not as impactful as I'm used to from Huda Beauty, but I've gotten quite a bit of use out of this palette. I think it's a really stunning color story. I really do enjoy my looks when I make it, but it is pricey. It is pricey. I did get it 20% off, but I think if this was gone, if I woke up one day and it was gone from my collection, I think I would repurchase it. I think I would. I think the color story is unique enough that I would repurchase it. I think I would repurchase Mercury Retrograde over this one if I absolutely had to choose, but this is really, really pretty, and I do like having it in my collection, so I'd rebuy it. Next up, we have the Pure and Raw Beauty Kristi palette. This came out a couple years ago. It is a 2-sided palette, so one side is like a super colorful, vibrant sort of vibe, and then the other side is really nice, neutral, everyday tones that you could wear on the daily basis. Now, I love Raw Beauty Kristi. I absolutely love her channel, her content. Her family is so stinking cute. I just think that she is one of the most wholesome, genuine people who really does deserve all the success that she has found over the last, I don't even know how long on YouTube. She's been on YouTube for like a really long time, and she deserves it all. She just seems like such a sweetheart, right? I was not going to purchase this. I saw it and I thought it was beautiful. Like, it's not like I don't like the color story or anything. I just didn't need it in my life, right? And then I saw her talking about it in one of her videos. And like I said, she was just so genuinely happy about this collaboration that I wanted to support her and purchase it. And so I did, obviously. I would not repurchase this though. One, I wish I would have known her Colourpop palette was coming out afterwards. I think a lot of people were a little bamboozled with that, where like we all went out and purchased this palette to support her, and then like a month or two later, Colourpop came out with a collaboration with her, which like was the dream for her. She had been talking about Colourpop forever, and we all knew she really wanted that collaboration. So when it happened, we were all super excited. What are you doing, Pep? making an entrance? Okay, bye. And then her Colourpop color story was honestly a mixture of both sides of these palettes. Like, I don't know, it just had a little bit of everything from this palette. And so honestly, I would have rather purchased the Colourpop collab, but I didn't because I had just purchased this one. And they were so, honestly, in my opinion, they were so similar together. I didn't want to buy both. Also, this is just random. And I don't mean that in like a mean, rude way. It's just like, when I think of Pure Cosmetics, I don't think of eyeshadow palettes. And off the top of my head, I can't think of another eyeshadow palette that they have ever released that I've ever heard anyone talk about. So while it's awesome, she got this collaboration and it's a beautiful palette and it's good quality the couple times that I've reached for it, I don't reach for it very much. And I don't know, I would not repurchase it if I could go back in time. I would have waited and bought the dang Colourpop collab and I would have gotten that instead. But I don't have that one, which is a bummer because it looked just so pretty. And anyways, I'm like repeating myself now. So the moral of the story, I love Kristi and I think this is pretty, but I wouldn't repurchase. Next up, we have my Patrick Ta Major Dimensions 2 Rose palette. Do I even need to talk about this? Yes, I would repurchase this. Then speaking of Colourpop, we have the Going Coconuts palette. So this was my go-to neutral palette for the longest time. I love this palette and honestly, I still do. I actually reached for it the other day for work and I hadn't used it in a while and I ended up really loving the look that I made. However, That's Taupe by Colourpop has just came in and kind of like taken its place as my like favorite neutral go-to sort of palette. So I don't know though. I don't know. I just love it so much and Colourpop is so affordable and this Cocoa Crush shade in the middle is like one of my favorite shades ever. So now I'm like, I was about to say I wouldn't repurchase it and now I'm like, maybe I would. I actually don't think I would. I don't think I would because I have That's Taupe and then also the Natasha Denona Glam palette. So between those two, I have pretty much all of these shades, but I would really miss that Cocoa Crush shade, like for sure. Maybe if it was on like a really good sale and Colourpop was having these for like $4 or $5, I would repurchase it. And it's really not that expensive full price anyways. I think it's only like $12, but I'm gonna go with I wouldn't repurchase it, but I might. One I know I wouldn't purchase if it somehow just disappeared from my collection is this one right here. This is the Natasha Denona Mini Glam palette. Now, the Midi Glam palette, the larger one, the $65 one with 15 shades, one of my favorite palettes ever. I absolutely love that palette with my whole heart. But because I have that palette, I don't really need this one. I never reach for this palette. It's amazing quality. The shades are beautiful. The mattes blend beautifully. The shimmers are absolutely stunning. Like there's nothing wrong with this palette. And I actually picked this one up first. This one came out first and I'm assuming it was like a bestseller for her, which is why in turn she made the Midi Glam palette, the larger one. But if I would have gotten the Midi one first, I wouldn't have picked this one up, if that makes sense. Like I just got this because that was the only option at the time and I really did like the color story and it's a great little palette. There's nothing wrong with this. It's just if I'm going to reach for these tones, I'm going to reach for my other glam palette, you know what I mean? So I would not repurchase this. Then we have a palette that I think is going to surprise some of you that I'm going to say I wouldn't repurchase it. I did not purchase this one. It was sent to me in friend mail from one of my friends who had a couple motherships just sitting around in her collection and she wanted someone to get more use out of it because she wasn't getting use out of it. So she sent this my way and it's the this is the Pat McGrath Divine Rose 2 palette. Again, I did not repurchase it like I just said, but I wouldn't repurchase this if it was lost from my collection. Like I wouldn't go out of my way to spend my money to rebuy it. It's a beautiful palette. It's great quality because it's Pat McGrath. I mean, it's a mothership. Like I feel almost guilty saying that I wouldn't repurchase this because I'm sure there's tons of people out there who would love to have this palette and just kind of thinks it's crazy to spend $125 on an eyeshadow palette, which I totally understand. Pat McGrath does have sales quite often on her website, so you wouldn't have to pay full price for this, but even on sale, it's still like $90. So I understand that's a lot of money, and I understand there's probably people out there who would really love to have this, and I'm just like, I wouldn't repurchase it. Am I happy it's in my collection? Yes, I think it's beautiful. Obviously, her special shades over here are stunning. Even these 6 are beautiful as well, but I don't know. I just really don't reach for this very often. I'm grateful it was sent to me from my friend. I really appreciate it. I have gotten use out of it, but of all the motherships I own, this is probably the one that I reach for the least. So for that reason, I would not repurchase it. Then we have the BH Cosmetics Avocado Toast Palette. Would I repurchase this? I think it's a really beautiful palette. I do. BH Cosmetics has a beautiful eyeshadow formulation. Their mattes are nice. They're blendable. They're pigmented, but not too pigmented. Their shimmers are lovely. I say the same thing about BH Cosmetics pretty much every time I talk about the brand. And I have found out that Makeup Revolution is not going to change from what I've heard, they're not going to change their eyeshadow formulation, even though they just acquired them, which I'm sure we're all super happy to hear about that because Makeup Revolution isn't the most reputable brand from what I've heard. There's definitely a lot of mixed reviews about a bunch of their products, and BH's eyeshadow formulation is so good. So I was really happy to hear that. I think the quality on this is beautiful. The color story is beautiful. I love green tones, but there's also some brown. There's also some pinks. Like, this is a pretty versatile palette. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't gotten a ton of use out of it. Not because I don't like it or anything like that. I just haven't. So I feel like for that reason, I would repurchase it, which is probably not what you were expecting me to say. But I don't know, just looking at it, the color story is so pretty and unique. I love green tones, but again, there's the other options. And I just think it's a stunning palette, especially for the price. And then the quality is beautiful. So I feel like I would repurchase this. I think the color story is unique to my collection. And the couple of times I have used it and the couple of looks I've made with it are actually really beautiful. I should do a 1 week 1 palette on this because it is pretty versatile, and I haven't shown it the love it deserves. But yeah, I think I would repurchase this. I would want this in my collection. Alrighty, we only have 2 left. The next one is the Half Cake Beauty Your Eyes Only palette. Now, when I open this up, you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, Emily, that is a neutral Nelly eyeshadow palette. You have these shades a million times over in your collection in a multitude of other palettes. And to that, I would say you're correct. However, I would repurchase this. I really, really love this palette. Anytime I talked about Half Cake, I say this, and I wholeheartedly mean it. I think they are a really underrated brand. I don't think a ton of people are talking about them, sadly. I have seen that Taylor Wynn has been recently talking about their cream bronzer in the shade Morning View. She loves it. I agree with her. It's a beautiful bronzer. I also love that. So I'm hoping that they're gonna get their time to shine here soon, and maybe some of their products will blow up and get super popular because they deserve it. But circling back to the actual reason we're here, this palette. I love this. Yes, they are everyday tones. Yes, I have these shades a million times in other palettes, but I don't even care. The quality on this is so beautiful. The mattes blend together like a dream. The shimmers are stunning. They're not wham bam thank you ma'am super impactful shimmers. However, when you put them on your eyes, they just are beautiful. They catch the light in the most stunning way without being too impactful. I think a lot of people would enjoy this formulation because it's not too intense, and I feel like most people in the everyday don't want a super intense shimmer, and that's what this will give you. Every time I do my eyeshadow with this palette, I love the look so much. It's just such a good staple go-to palette. I should use it again in an upcoming video because I've used it maybe once or twice on my channel, but I use this a lot in my everyday life for work, and it's a beautiful palette, so I need to show it off in action again coming up, but I would definitely repurchase this. And last but not least, we have this little baby right here. This is the Divine Skies eyeshadow palette in the shade Magic Hour from M Cosmetics. I love this palette. This is such a beautiful peachy tone palette. This palette is the quality from M Cosmetics that I expect. I ended up purchasing one of her more neutrally palettes that launched a couple months ago at this point, and I was really disappointed by that quality, but this is the quality that I love from them. These mattes are so buttery smooth. They blend together so nicely. They never get patchy on my eyes. These shimmers are impactful. The color story is beautiful. You can use one color. You can use all 6 in an eye look. It doesn't matter. However you pair these shadows together, it doesn't matter which ones you pair together, your look is going to look stunning. The quality is amazing. I love that it's super compact and small. You don't have to think about it. I love this palette. I would definitely repurchase it. And that was it, you guys. That was my would I buy it again, talking about a whole bunch of eyeshadow palettes and if I would repurchase them or not. Are you surprised? I feel like there was quite a few here that I would not repurchase that a lot of people really love, and I don't know, not that I don't like them, but I just wouldn't go out of my way to repurchase them. Let me know down below if you own any of these palettes and if you feel the same way about them as I do or not. I love hearing from you guys down below in the comments. Definitely make sure you check out Rachel and Amy's channels. They will both be linked down below for you guys. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. You're awesome and I love you. Please subscribe if you have not yet, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye guys.